talk about, let's go ahead and first identify you. How do you want to be identified on camera?
Sirc Michaels.
S-I-R-C?
Yes.
Michaels, okay. And you are?
With Avenue 10.
Avenue 10. Okay, let's start again.
All right.
Sirc Michaels.
Sirc Michaels with Avenue 10.
Okay. And you have run into situations with the Repent Amarillo Raven Ministries people, and tell me about that briefly in broad stroke terms.
Avenue 10 is an arts group, performing arts, and primarily theater. Our choice of shows, for whatever reason, have put a bee in their bonnet, and they decided to start targeting us. They put us on their website on a map saying we were a gay theater, speaking out against us. Not that we care if people think we're whatever theater. The big problem, of course, is that it's not accurate, and then they would attack us for it. They were part of a larger issue that caused us to lose our old space, and we've been wandering around ever since, from location to location. Now they're back again. We weren't going to do any shows. We had postponed our shows to the end of the year because we're working on getting a new venue, which we're trying to secure, but I'm not sure how that'll work. And
so go ahead.
We weren't sure how that was going to work, getting a venue, but we decided that what we would do is we would take the last quarter of the year off and concentrate all of our efforts on that after we did Rent out at the Big Texan. Recently, Repent Amarillo or Raven Ministries, whatever David Grisham is going to call himself or tack into now, because Raven Ministries is a larger deal than just Repent Amarillo, decided to go down to the city and attempt to get the city to stop the production altogether of a show that we were planning on doing in November that we had canceled. It became clear to us that we had to do the show. We were essentially obligated to. Because if we didn't, first of all, that group would then claim it as a victory, that they had somehow stopped us because they did this prior when our venue got shut down. They claimed it as a victory, that they had, that God had shut us down. So they would attempt to use that in some fashion to further their own cause. Also, it left a foul taste in our mouths that any group, would think that they could stop someone else from doing something that was legal and proper and that broke no laws, that they could go down and get the city to stop us. And we felt that it was essential for us to do the show, that when someone comes up and says to the arts, you cannot do that, that is the time that you're essentially obligated to do it.
I understand that part of it. How has this hurt Avenue 10 economically?
Well, first of all, they helped in getting our venue closed. Avenue 10 had some issues of its own, which we weren't aware of, but the route that they took and the venom of their attacks and their persistence caused us to essentially lose our venue. We cannot operate inside the venue we had. We are a theater company. Without a venue, we have no business. So now we've been forced to wander around and look for places where we can put up shows. Every time we've attempted to do so, there's been sort of this weird problem for the group that is allowing us to use their space. There's a church here in town that allowed us to use their space for a couple of shows. The city stepped in and then told them that they could only have one thing go in there a month, or else they were going to not be a church anymore. They were going to be in an event center or something along this lines. So that was a problem. Obviously, we don't want to overstay our welcome, so that closed the door to us. Talking to the city, it hurts us because even though our audience our audience runs from kids with piercings all over their bodies to suit and tie types who come in that lived through the 60s. It runs the gamut of people, and they don't care. They enjoy what we do. However, there's a perception that this group is putting upon us, and it's hurting us when we attempt to show ourselves as legitimate to the city and to the building inspectors and so forth and so forth. They've made it very difficult for us to be able to just simply stand up and go, yes, this is what we do. We're not doing anything improper. We're doing a legal business here. When you have a group, even part of the problem is they're wrapping themselves up in the guise of Christianity. And when you do that in this town, at first, people will be fooled by that because people are good here and they're going to accept people. And when they say, oh, well, these are good Christian people, they might not look any further than that. Well, these good Christian people who are nice and they're going out in the community, well, they're saying that these guys are not good for the community. They're doing these awful things. They're having sex acts with sheep on stage or whatever it is that they're going to say about us. That causes a problem for us. It's an image problem that we actually have to fight. On one side, we're kind of tongue-in-cheek about how we promote our shows, but in terms of our business, we're very serious about it. It's a business. Even though people might not want to acknowledge that here in America, that these things have to operate on some practical business level, they do. And when you have the community not understanding that, you're not harming anyone, it takes a bit to get past that. And when we went down initially to talk to Center City and so forth, they knew nothing about us. What they knew was that a Christian group had called us out and said that we were a bad influence and that we had already attained a reputation within the city from the moment I walked in, and I had never talked to them before. And it's taken some time just to be able to meet with those people, and I really don't know what their attitude is on it. Some of them, of course, do lip service and say, we're behind the arts and so forth, but I see no real movement. I see a lot of things, people saying, hey, we need to have you guys downtown. It would be good for downtown. But I see a lot of resistance from the establishment downtown to have us there. And that resistance can only come from one place. Not saying that that group has a hold in the city or anything like that, but they've created an image for us prior to us getting there that has caused people to not regard us in the way that they might not have. They may have just said, "Oh, these are guys who are doing this theater that you'd find in a city. Okay, it's going to be a little edgy, but all right, that's what we do." However, they've tainted us, and it actually does hurt us. It also hurts us because right after all that stuff happened, there was a lot of militant language used in Repent Amarillo's website. A lot of our audience members weren't sure if they wanted to come to the shows. They didn't know if they were going to be hurt. They didn't know if there was going to be violence. They had no idea. All they knew were these big groups of people were, going to all these different places and protesting, and they didn't know what that would mean to come and see one of our shows. When people want to go out, they just want to go out and have fun. And this group is, in a very real way, is infringing on our rights to do business in Amarillo. This is America, and this is Texas, and this is the Panhandle. This should be a place where if you want to open up a business that's legal, you should be able to do so. And these guys are free to yell, scream, stand on the rooftops, saying we're bad, we're evil. They shouldn't be able to then affect the city, the government, however you want to put it, the people in charge. Those people should be of a mind to be able to differentiate between loud yelling and practical business purposes.
This is the first I've heard that the city actually raised an issue about the number of performances at the church.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the UU Fellowship.
Yes. Yeah. Now, the way there are people who run Avenue 10. I do a lot of more of the practical day-to-day and the PR and the marketing and just the normal stuff that has to be done in order for the theater company to run. I do a lot of that. But there are other people who do other things. And the person who coordinated with the UU to put those shows in place had explained to me that there were only yes, it was creating a problem for the UU, because what the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship had done was they had the city come out to let them know this is what was going to be happening in there, etc., etc. Initially, when we first went in there, because with the first show that got shut down that Repent Amarillo had a hand in, it was called Bent, and it was about Nazi persecution of homosexuals, and of course that threw him into a tizzy. But the UU said, hey, why don't you come out here and do the show here? Well, in order to sort of cut off any problems that might arise, they went to the city and said, hey, come down here, tell us that it's okay. So he said, yeah, it's okay. Well, then later on, we did the Laramie Project out there. And again, my understanding is they approached the city again, and at that point the city said, hey, look, you can only have one thing going here a month, or you're not going to be a church anymore. I mean, there are tons of churches in this town, and I guarantee they've got all sorts of stuff going on all the time.
Who from the UU heard this from the city? Do you know?
I don't have the name on me. The person to talk to about that would be David Burton or Jessica Burton. I can't even think of the contact person at the UU. It's a woman, and I have her name somewhere, but just not with me. I never spoke. I met the people, but I never set it all up. Okay. So I wasn't part of the conversations that took place with that. Now, the UU never said you can't come back. But at the same time, it puts a little bit of responsibility on us. We have to think of this. The people who are helping us in the community have to almost look at it as a risk. Okay, well, we want to help them. This is a good group. They're doing good things. However, there's a real risk for us involved. So, we don't know how much we can help. And from our end, of course, we don't want to put those people that are helping us in a jam either. It's very weird to me. We're not doing anything illegal. We're doing plays. And I'm happy that they're provocative and they've got people talking. I'm just surprised that and I'm glad that the city basically told David Grisham, sit down, be quiet on the current issue. However, it also worries me a little bit that they then sort of said, well, we'll see how it goes. That to me is sort of this, well, if we get complaints, we'll look into it. We might shut them down. We might not. We'll decide what we want to do. That's very fluid to me. I'd rather them call us and go, hey, what are you doing? And we can explain it to them. I feel like we are doing nothing illegal, and the people who are helping us should not feel threatened by helping us. We're an arts group. I mean, I don't understand what the issue is here. This guy, David Grisham, prior to this, I had talked to him at length, and we come from very different points of view. However, we both agreed that, you should be able to have freedom of expression and this and that, yeah, you might not like what we do and you can yell about it, and I don't like anything you do, and I can say what I want about it too, and that's okay. It's when I don't go to the city and I don't try to get them to shut him down when he goes on street corners, or when he impedes people from being able to walk lawfully from their cars to a business. I don't run around and go, hey, let's get injunctions and everything else. I think of common courtesy. You want to have your expression, express it. But then don't go and attempt to get the city to shut us down. It's dirty pool. And I'm actually surprised that the city hasn't taken a stronger stance to show that they're not manipulated in some fashion. We're not the only business that's been attacked by these people. And I'm surprised that there just hasn't been more of a clampdown on them doing what they do. That's, as far as that goes. I don't know if there's anything the city could do. Maybe not.
I've got one more question about this, and that is, when they've been out protesting at your venues, wherever you are, whether it's at UU or whether, Has it actually turned people away from coming into the venue and cost you money? I mean, were they at rent at the Big Texan, for example?
No, the Big we actually and this is part of the problem too. For our event, we had security. At rent at the Big Texan, we had police officers, off-duty police officers that we had to pay to be there, which was very good for us. We felt a lot safer with them there. However, the Big Texan is not a tiny venue. They're not a small church. If these guys step foot on the Big Texan, they could have them ejected, without yawning, because the parking lot's owned by the Big Texan. It's a lot different when these guys are standing on public property doing this. They have not, the times that they have protested us, they have not stopped people from walking in the door. What happens is prior to that, every time these guys stand up and jump up and yell, it does two things for us. Number one, it helps us because it puts our name out there and it promotes what we're doing in our shows and so forth. But it also hurts us because people then go, well, we know what these guys are about. We know they go out there and force. We know that they get license plates and they harass people about going to these. Do we really want to risk ourselves or deal with that just to go see a play? So there's actually a practical loss from the front end. Before we even get to what are they doing on the property, we have to look at what are they doing to our reputation because of their tactics. It's one thing for them to yell about us and so forth. It's quite another when they protest, and they don't call it protesting. They call it, I forget what they call it, but it's protesting. People don't want to deal with that. Now, when we do this show, we're going to have security. We're going to have security because the parking lot that is right next to the building, these guys have been known to stand there in the parking lot and harass people. Well, now we're going to have to somehow talk to the city. I mean, I might have to get, off-duty police officers to chase them off. I don't know what I'm going to have to do. But then there's a real cost involved with that as well. Because police officers, we're a theater group. We don't make a bunch of money. We don't have money coming to us and from any big donors. Well, the police officers are a real amount of money per hour to have them there. That's the first real way that we could stop them was if they tried to go, we could have the police officer chase them away. But then that's real money that's lost, and that's not money that we gain from anywhere but from the box office. And if they've already hurt our box office to begin with, well, now they're just taking more out. So it creates a real problem for us. Have they hurt our business? Yes, they have. We don't have a venue. Yeah, we don't have a venue. We were doing shows every month. We had stuff going on. We had people coming from the community. We had teenagers and people of all ages expressing themselves, getting involved in the arts, writing, directing, learning things. That's what we do in the community. We were able to help the Evelyn Rivers Foundation. We were able to do a lot of good things in the community, which we cannot do now because of this group. So not only have they hurt us in a practical way, but they've hurt everyone that we were working with. So yeah, they've taken away from our business, absolutely. And I call the guy out. I say, he says that we're no good for the community. I would say he's a danger to the community.